In today's video, we continue our NHL season preview series. Today, we're looking at the San Jose Sharks as we complete our recap of the Pacific Division for the 22-23 season. What should we expect from San Jose this year? We'll discuss that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're taking a look at the San Jose Sharks and previewing their upcoming 22-23 NHL season. Of course, if you've been following along, this will be the completion of the teams in the Pacific Division. We'll now be moving on to teams in the Central Division to wrap up this series around the time that the NHL season is getting underway. Of course, as by the time you get to see this on YouTube, we're going to be really close to the season starting. So certainly an exciting time for NHL fans for sure. Now, if you're new to this series, what we're going to do is we're going to recap last year, take a look at some key team stats, take a look at their recent history in the playoffs, or if they made it or not, or how things have gone in that regard. Take a look at their offseason, how do things change with the team, additions, subtractions, prospects coming into the organization. How does their lineup look and what should we expect? And give you my thoughts on what I feel they're going to accomplish this year. So first up, let's recap last year, 21-22, where they were 6th place in the Pacific Division with a record of 32, 37, and 13 for 77 points. They scored 214 goals for 30th best, so certainly a low-scoring team. That needs to get better if they're going to have any chance to win more games. Goals against, they were 21st with 264. The power play was okay, but not great at 19%. 22nd best in the league. The penalty killing, however, was phenomenal. 2nd best in the league with a percentage of 85.2. That's phenomenal. So that's certainly a little bit odd in a way to see a team not so high in goals against and everything to have such strong penalty killing, but certainly it's something you don't want to complain about. That's a wicked percentage for sure. Now, as far as playoffs go, they were once upon a time a team that was a consistent playoff team. You could bank on them being in just about every year, but for right now, they've missed the playoffs for the past 3 seasons. They got a new streak going here for being out, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to get in this year. It's going to be tough on them, but we'll discuss that as the video goes along. Of course, they have a whole new regime in San Jose. We saw them have Doug Wilson depart from the team partway through last season for health reasons. Joe Will was the interim GM for the last stretch of the year, and then we finally got word that Wilson wasn't coming back, and he was officially done with the Sharks, and that they were going to be hiring a new permanent GM. And then, of course, that new GM then hired a new coach. So, of course, they hired Mike Greer, the former NHL player, and, of course, has connections to the Sharks from the past. Will be in his first season as GM. Of course, was hired a little bit late into the offseason, not long before the NHL Draft. Of course, he hired David Quinn, the former bench boss with the New York Rangers and former college hockey coach, to be in his first year with the Sharks. Of course, things didn't go the greatest for him during his time with the Rangers organization, but certainly feels like he's learned a lot and ready for another opportunity. The Sharks, of course, did depart with their pretty much their full coaching staff, and that was also a very late in the offseason decision, which I know kind of angered many people. I know I didn't think it was the greatest for them to do that way either, given these guys not much time to find other employment. Most teams make decisions on coaches fairly quick in the offseason, just as a courtesy, so that if they want to seek employment with other teams, they have more time to do so. Thankfully for them, those guys did have a chance here to get on other places, like Bob Bugner is employed as well as some of his assistants. Now, how else has the team changed? Well, once Mike Greer got into his position, there was certainly a lot of moves that happened. Let's start here with some key players that were added to this roster since Greer's taken over. Of course, you got Luke Kunin, who came over via trade. They added Oscar Lindblom. They added Nico Sturm. Steven Lawrence came over in that Brent Burns deal. Evgeny Svechnikov comes over as a free agent. They added Matt Benning on defense. Scott Harrington went to camp on a PTO but got signed after. Also added Marcus Nudavara. So they've added 3 veteran defensemen with Benning, Harrington, and Nudavara, while adding a variety of depth forwards as well to fill out your middle 6 and bottom 6 of the NHL roster. Now, who's no longer with the team? Certainly some key players departed the organization, including longtime Shark, one of the top defensemen and offensive guys around the league, Brent Burns, who ended up being traded to the Hurricanes. Of course, like I said, that brought a few players back to them in that deal, including Steven Lawrence there. So Burns basically, it was come down to him and Karlsson. Karlsson's contract was much more money, a lot longer term, and they just didn't feel that they really needed both players, that it was probably best to have one guy be your lead power play guy, and it just made more sense to do it this way. Rudy Balcers also departs the team as well. He's now in Florida. Jonathan Dahlen leaves the organization, which I know surprised some. Aiden Hill was moved along, of course, to the Vegas Golden Knights, and Lane Peterson as well was also departed the organization as well, went to the Hurricanes. So obviously, you know, this team has changed a fair bit, with really Burns being the most substantial player to leave by far. But like I said, lots of players come in. Nothing real overly, nothing with a wow factor. Just a lot of good depth pieces. So we'll see how things stack up. Do they have prospects that we can expect to play this year and likely have an impact? And I think absolutely they do. Mainly being William Eklund and Thomas Bordeleau. I do expect both to see a decent amount, if not significant, NHL time this year, and certainly work on becoming a big part of the team's future. I wonder what the future holds for defenseman Ryan Merkley, the former first rounder who had his draft stock drop substantially during his draft year because of a lot of issues he had, mostly off-ice stuff. A lot of people associated with the scouting and different things that talk about this player leading into the draft said he was a top 10 talent, but, you know, bottomed out because of his attitude and off-ice issues with teammates and coaches and officials, etc. He seems to have matured a bit. I haven't heard of any issues of that nature since he's gone on to play pro with the Sharks, been attending now a few camps. Everything seems to be fine in that regard, but so far at this point he's yet to make a regular NHL lineup, so we'll have to keep an eye on him, but certainly somebody to watch. He definitely has talent, just a matter of putting it all together. Adam Raska is another one. I wonder if he'll see some NHL time this year, but the main ones I expect to have an impact will be Eklund and Bordeleau. Now let's take a look at their lineup going into opening night. I see a likely top line of Hurdle with Meyer and Kunin. You're likely looking at a second line of Logan Couture, Kevin LeBanc, and I think they'll put Eklund on that line. We will see. I know some project Lindblom to play there, but I think Eklund's the better choice. We'll have to wait and see how Quinn lines things up. I suspect the third line will be a good checking line of Bonino, Nieto, and Lindblom, with your fourth line being Steven Lawrence, Svechnikov, and Noah Gregor. So I'm not sure that there's a spot for Bordeleau. Right off the bat, I can see him. Maybe he gets sent down and he's a regular call-up option. I don't know. Maybe they decide to make room for him. I just don't know if they're going to want to put Bordeleau in a bottom six role. I'm not sure that makes sense unless they decide to play Bordeleau in the top six, move Kunin down, and then somebody else out of the bottom six gets bumped out. That's a possibility as well. We'll see, but I do expect Bordeleau and Eklund to both play a lot this year. On the blue line, you're going to have likely Ferraro and Karlsson, Vlasic, Benning, and Harrington, and either Radim Simic, of course, Nudavara was in there as well. And then, of course, between the pipes, you got James Reimer and Kakko Kakkonen. So, certainly, I think they'll get decent goaltending out of Reimer. The blue line, not the greatest by any means. Vlasic is not the defenseman he once was. So, there's a couple of exciting players. Mario Ferraro is getting better all the time. Karlsson, hopefully with a bigger role, with Burns not being there, and he's the main guy. I'm wondering if he can, maybe we'll see closer to what he was once upon a time. I know injuries have taken its toll on Karlsson too, but it'd be nice to see him kind of get back and be a little bit more of a productive player. So we'll see how the blue line goes, but overall there's some things to like, and there's certainly some concerns. I don't see the Sharks being a top team in this division, clearly. Last year they were 6th. I still think they're going to be around that 6-7 range. Maybe as high as 5th would probably be the most I would project them. I think between Seattle, Anaheim, and San Jose, they'll likely be your bottom 3 teams. I just don't know exactly what the order is going to be. Obviously, I don't think they can keep up with teams like Edmonton and Calgary, or even Vancouver, Vegas. So you're bound to have some teams, or even LA for that matter. So I think those will be your top 5. Then you got, like I said, Sharks, Ducks, and Kraken near the bottom, and the order is kind of interchangeable a bit. I'm not sure that the Sharks are better than the Ducks even right now. The Kraken have made a lot of good adjustments, so it's going to be interesting. The Sharks very well, I don't know, they could even bottom out this year, but this team certainly needs it needs work. But to get a whole new point of view here from Greer and Quinn. So sometimes you get teams with a nice boost from just a fresh perspective, new way of doing things. Players, obviously want to impress the new coach and all that. So you might get that, early bump from that, and maybe they'll surprise us a bit and maybe be more in the mix for that 5-6 range. But the Sharks are a team I'm concerned about. They do have some good young players like Eklund and Bordelot, but they could use some more prospects to offset some of the older guys in the organization too. But time will tell. Going to be an interesting season in San Jose. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll discuss more in the comment section. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.